It's time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Hey, Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birthday party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Unplugged with Scotty G. It's great to have you in here. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. It's been a bit. I hope you're enjoying the early off season so far, digesting and kind of processing this World Series and still enjoying yourself. This is how it goes, though. Sports doesn't stop. The narratives never stop. The news doesn't stop. GM meetings, all this stuff, getting into the nitty gritty stuff with the roster, and really, let's hold on a little bit. Pull the reins back, and just, enjoy it. Listen, keep enjoying this. I still am. All my World Series merch is making its way, this week. So I'll let you know how that haul comes in. A lot of people have been asking. Yes, Dalton Rushing and I that's the celebrity lookalike. So I'm breaking out the mustache. We're going to be, dialed in on that. But what's up, tier ones? It's good to see you guys. Happy Wednesday. Do me all a quick favor. If you're tuning in after the fact, watching right now, hit that like button. Let you know when we're going live, everything. You got love for us. Congratulations, Dodger Blue, to us on the 100K. Thank you all. This is what, we do this for you. Can't do this without all the people who tune in day after day. This is why we do it. So thank you so much. We might have a special guest a little bit later on. Might have Anthony Witrato joining me. He's tied up for a little bit. So depending on how long we go here, we'll get joined in by Anthony, joining on the chatter on some stuff. But it's good to see you. Yeah, 100K has been great. It's been great. Yesterday I wasn't on with you, but happy Veterans Day to everybody. Appreciate you. If anybody in here has served, family, friends, loved ones, thank you. But yes, I'm still taking it all in. My entire social media feed is still clogged, thankfully, with World Series stuff and the weeping and the tears from fans all around Major League Baseball and sports that are upset. But it's great to have you all here. Super excited to get to talk about some of the, early chatter that we've got going on here. I've got to check one thing here, and then we'll be good to go. But Mr. Blake Williams had a tweet that he's supposed to put up here, and I don't think I was able to get this going. I'll do it in a second. But let's check in. Let's check in with chat early on. Sandy Feet says, Scotty, hit me with your championship gear on Series T. I'm waiting to get all the merch in a little bit because you know how it goes and gets cheaper as time goes on. But I'm talking about like memorabilia. I'm a sucker for all the stuff on the wall there. I ordered, where is it? That one right there. I ordered the 2025 one of that, and then I got another couple commemorative things. But I'm big time on getting the ones that leave a lasting memory of that team. I like that. It has a little cutout of every single player that contributed to the roster. Team photo in the middle, commemorative coins, stuff like that. Stuff I can look back on, remember the entire team. So that's actually my favorite piece of memorabilia that they put out there. So excited for it to get here. But that's what I've got cooking here. Let me see. I'll just go with some early stuff here. But again, guys, we're going to talk about Devin Williams, put that in the title and stuff. We're going to talk Devin Williams, Steven Kwan. Have I changed my tune? It's possible. It's definitely possible. I possibly changed my tune on some things. But we'll get into that and break it all down here. Let's see. BC says, but the one saying MLB has it out for Toronto or just delusional, just be bad business. Hey, it's the way it goes, man. Golly gee, look at the offseason. This is Scotty's thoughts. We do this in the first 10, 15 minutes. So look at how everything went, like the Dodgers postseason run went down, right? Like it feels like worlds ago. Like going through a postseason now, and you look at having to go through each series and each one told a story. It's why this team was special. The when you looked at it, and a lot was made of like the poor play from the offense, no doubt, because it was uncharacteristic how high the 2024 team went with. They were just pummeling people, no pitching, and you were just able to go out and beat them down, and that was fun to watch. That was fun to watch. But when you look at series to series, beat up on the Reds, took care of business there. Then you've got the Phillies, and it felt like this is the matchup. This is the matchup. And then you said that the offense was down because the pitching was so good. Both are true. Both are true. But then they carried over into the Brewers. That was a series in itself. And then World Series, man, was one of the best ever. Probably one of the best game sevens of all time. So I'm still taking all that in. So for me to go on here and talk about stuff, I'm looking ahead, guys who were left the team there, the Tony Gonsolin news, him getting DFA'd, players not coming back, and Conforto talking about left field, stuff like that. Look, we've got to do it. We've got to do it. There are some pieces to this roster. The Dodgers have 80 plus and change, 80 plus and change. So that's what they've got to work with here. Do the free agents out there, do they fit that bill? They might. Some do. Some I don't necessarily want to get into. Saw somebody put in Kyle Tucker here. I've got a couple super chats early on. Undisputed says, can we look for for third base? Muncy second, Tommy Edman center field. Well, Undisputed. I don't know if you saw, but Tommy Edman is having a procedure, or he had a procedure on his ankle. So his status for spring training is up in the air. The Dodgers, you know how it goes with them. They're going to slow play him. It's when he's ready to be cleared of everything. They don't like bringing players back if you don't have to, that are still rehabbing and getting themselves ramped up. They want them to be ready to go. So the Tommy Edman news, he's not playing center for a bit. I think they're going to give him some time, and second base is a home for him. And that's why where I'm looking at with the team right now, they need him out. They need an outfielder big time. They really do. Third baseman, you look at who's out there as far as third baseman, and you're looking at just a very slim list here. And I know the Dodgers, and nobody wants to see Alex Bregman and stuff like that. And that's not somebody I think the Dodgers are in the market for at all. Eugenio Suarez, I'm good. Munetaka Murakami, he's out there. I don't want to deal with that. Once you get into his numbers and stuff like that, high, big time whiff rate, he's going to be, a quality big leaguer, but I really don't want to pay him 20 plus million with the numbers that he's got. If people are mad at swing and miss, Murakami's not the one. He's not the one early on. He might develop. He might get, adapt to major league, pitching and become a force, but it's not something I want to do. It's not something I want to do at this time. So third base, Max Muncy's locked in. We'll wait and see how they figure that out in the future. But third base is not something I'm looking at. Second base, they've got some options here. Ha-Seong Kim, everybody forgets about him. And then Tommy Edman having procedure on the ankle. Yeah, people want Murakami. I get it. It's flashy. Big time left-handed bat, but super high K rate, big time whiff rate. Stuff against velocity that's even above 93 miles an hour is not good. Average fastball in Major League Baseball is like 94, 95. So not yet. Not yet. Yeah, GI says, hard to see Edman as an everyday solution in center field with that chronically injured ankle. He needs to get right. They need to let him take as much time as it could be, as he needs. Let him get that way, and then go from there. All right. 300 says, I'm a big Brendan Donovan fan. They were linked to him at last year's deadline. Think we need a much cheaper. I think he'll be much cheaper than Kwan. Just can't see us in the Tucker sweepstakes. I mean, they'll be in the Tucker sweepstakes to an extent. I was on with Clint yesterday on Dodgers territory, and my biggest thing with Kyle Tucker is that, can you justify paying Kyle Tucker 30 plus, 35 plus million a year? Because he's going to get a big, like a 10-year deal, 7 to 10-year deal. If somebody wants to get stupid and go, try to stretch that money out big time like the Padres do, then you could see 12 because he's 27, 28. Not sure what it'll be when the season kicks off, but it's looking at what he does well. He does a lot of things well. In fact, almost everything. And some injury concerns there, but does he do anything elite? And that's the biggest question. He can carry stuff to an MVP, but does he do anything big time elite? And that's what you have to ask yourself. Do you want to hand a player like that, especially if you're the Los Angeles Dodgers, another 35 plus million? And I know fans always say, not my money. I've said it before, not my money. But you have prospects, in double A, some in single A that are a couple years away, and you don't want to clog that up. Perhaps Teoscar Hernandez, when that contract's up, they're ready to go there. But it's with Kyle Tucker. Do you want to handle a guy like that who has some concerns? From what we've seen about, commitment to the game, stuff like that. It's just, it doesn't scream Los Angeles Dodgers. It screams Los Angeles Dodgers because he's a big money guy and everybody just ties that in. They need an outfielder, big money, Dodgers market, stuff like that. But I think that not that they'll be out. They're going to do what they did with like Bryce Harper. We'll offer you low years, high AAV if you want to take it and still go back into the market while you're young, while you're primed to get another big contract. Then maybe he does it. If the market's not there, they perhaps could capitalize on it. And that's a way that they could see it. But I don't think the Dodgers are going to be in on a 10-year contract for Kyle Tucker. That's how I'm seeing it. They will be linked, but it's going to be on their terms. They're not going to go and meet Kyle Tucker's terms. That's how I see it. Yeah, GI right here. I agree with you. He says the only thing that Tucker does well, or the only thing that Tucker does on a somewhat elite level is low K rate, high walk rate. Other than that, it's above average stuff. Does a lot of things just pretty damn good. Pretty damn good, not elite. That's what you have to look at. You don't just pay teams that need a star to stick around. You know what I mean? You pay them no matter what. Let's just pick the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't know how you let Paul Skeens leave. You pay him whatever it takes to keep him there. Whatever it takes. And that's top end guy. But there are teams out there that they'll see a guy like Kyle Tucker and they'll be like, it's okay leaving. The Cubs have the money to do it. Letting him walk, they brought him in. If you've got a guy like that in house and he enhances your team and you need that and it's going to leave a gaping hole, then you keep him. You do what you can to keep him. But if it's outside of your price range and it's not overwhelmingly elite, what are you going to do? They took their swing. And if Kyle Tucker leaves Chicago and he doesn't re-sign there, which I don't think they are, he's priced out pretty quick. Excuse me. I think that's the same dilemma a lot of big league teams that can sign him are. I think Toronto will be in the market for him, no doubt. They're looking at some big swings this postseason run for them. Bo Bichette, Shane Bieber re-signed, accepted his club option, like $16 million. So they're pretty okay. They've got starting pitching there. I think Toronto could be a landing spot for Kyle Tucker. He's a great player. People say he's nothing crazy. He's a great player. Top five, can be a top 5 hitter, in a National League, American League, wherever he's at. He's just got to be on field, not get hurt, stay out there. But I'm not taking that away from him. I don't want the Dodgers to pay him 35 plus. Brandon Marquez says, I see us getting Bichette. I mean, they've been linked in the past in trades, but I don't see how they let that leave. How does Toronto let Bo Bichette leave? Just don't see it. It's a fit for the Dodgers. It's super intriguing, but I don't know how you let him leave if you're Toronto. It'll be unbelievable. He was a demon. He was a postseason demon. It was like, and when you have count leverage as a starter and a reliever and you're like, we need to get a chase here. He was waiting for that chase. He was waiting for that stuff out of the zone. He was just putting barrel down, getting it and getting good wood. So Bo Bichette, surprised the hell out of me. He was, had his Freddie Freeman type of postseason where he's just banged the hell up. Vladdy was a demon too, Matty, man. No doubt. I'm talking about Bo Bichette, though. Yeah, Vladdy ascended into superstar status. So that was fun baseball to watch. So I'm saying that was a hell of a series. Yang Yi says sign Tucker only if he accepts deferred money. I don't know if I want to do it. There's a huge piece of me, chat. There's a big time, piece of me that really wants to see one of the Dodgers' young outfield prospects elevate themselves and have a clear runway to start. I really want that to be the case. I don't care who it is. DePaula, Hope, Sirota, I don't care who it is. I'm forgetting one, man. I'm forgetting one. A lot of names tossed around in my mind right now. Quintero, thank you. That's the one. So they've got a lot, and I want someone to have a rise like that through the minor league system. It's going to take a few years. I would say 2 years. 300, thank you, Quintero, yeah. I would say 2 years. So that's why I'm leaning the route of, you've heard me say it, I've tweeted about it, went on DT yesterday and talked about it. But a part of me really wants that to be the case. Don't lock yourself into another big deal. You don't need to do it. We're fine with it last year. Surviving the Michael Conforto experience, you can do it. I know we're not ready to have the conversation of the years of Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and these guys that with age comes a decline in offensive production. And it's a conversation we'll have eventually, not now, not today. But they have to have one of these young guys come up, not carry the load, but be, contributor. Andy Pages, for whatever he did in the postseason, is besides the point. Andy Pages had a stellar regular season. He was a big-time player. Andy Pages, I think he had a 4-WAR season. What was his F-WAR this year? He was terrific. So it's like the production you get from young players, and the Dodgers have the possibility of multiple. You need that. So, yeah, 4.1 F-WAR. So his postseason was tough. But getting young production like that offensively and defensively from a 24-year-old outfielder still, in pre-arbitration is so valuable. And the Dodgers are a few years away from getting a look at some of these young guys who have been, on top 100 lists. So that's the intrigue I have. So when people ask me about big time contracts and it's everything, and I'm not saying it's like the uninformed fan, I don't want to say that, but it's that having so many big time contracts puts you and it's on players and that are old around the roster. We talked about the fear that if the Dodgers don't win and then the production just doesn't uptick and they go into it goes south with their core that's older, highly paid. You get into the Phillies of the late 2010, the 2010, like early 2010s after they won their World Series, old, overpaid. And you're like, how the hell do we get out of this? And it took them a while. That's not going to happen to the Dodgers because they have all the resources in the world to get out of that type of stuff. But I'm saying that the Dodgers spend effectively, they don't just toss money just for the sake of doing it for super bad contracts. Tanner Scott's the only one recently that you've seen. They threw the money and you're like, what the hell happened? So who I bank on returning. Give yourself an offseason, get right mentally, physically, all the things. We'll talk about him. But I think everybody's pretty unified that unless Kyle Tucker signs for a short, high AAV, short-term high AAV deal, the big-time deal, seeing $400 million, 10 years, Los Angeles Dodgers were like, Drew, I'm not talking about that, man. I'm saying that you bring in another, like a young player on a big deal. Mookie Betts is still under contract till I'm 40. Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. Like you just have a lot of, some guys on big money deals and you pay, of course, for the prime and you deal with the back end. But at a certain point, you've got to start looking around your roster in your farm system. They can pay other spots. But the point being is that Kyle Tucker is someone, do you want to give him 40 million, 35 plus? That's the question. That's what I'm talking about. Just because he's there doesn't make him the perfect option to give that contract. That's my biggest thing. Cool. I think we're all clear. I think we're on the same page. Yeah, GI, talk to me, buddy. No thanks. If it happens, I've said it before, over the moon. If they do it, how can I be upset with a top 5 bat in the league? I won't be. It's just about the contract. That's where my questions come from. I've got to have something elite to cling on to and say, they gave him this money because, and then list off the elite things. Yeah, Ray, we're on the same page, man. If you're on the Kyle Tucker thing, 400 million, Godspeed. Is what it is, man. I'll be happy, but I'll still have to say that contract, how's it going to age? Slower bat speed, stuff like that. Christian said Harrison Bader or Cedric Mullins considerations. I don't think so. Cedric Mullins doesn't really fit the mold for me. And Harrison Bader, I don't think they need a righty. I don't think they're looking at it. Below average bat, can play a hell of a center field. I get it. But I think they need someone who can crush left or right-handed pitching, man. They need a left-handed bat. I don't know why everybody's so focused on a right-handed hitter. I saw that somewhere around, like some big media outlet put that out there. Some writer put that out there that the Dodgers need to find a right-handed bat to hit lefties. I'm like, they didn't watch at all this year. Who they watching? What team? They have righties in the lineup that can slug. They need a lefty in the outfield. Conforto ain't it. He didn't work out. They had nobody off the bench that could come in and slug. Dalton Rushing, what the hell is going to happen with him? Intriguing. Does he fit the mold? Is he going to be a backup all year? These are these big questions. In a shortened thing, when it's the back end of the season, that's when he could do that for a bit. But if he's not an answer in left field, that's why we're looking at this. We're going to go a little bit backwards here. And I want to make some, talk about the Steven Kwan stuff. I want to talk Steven Kwan because Steven Kwan has a few years of team control here. And I have long said that I don't want to pay big time prospect capital for, a contact guy, but I've had some conversations and I've looked into stuff and I really think this, and I believe this. And I've not that I've confirmed this but I have with people that I trust. I believe that the Dodgers are searching for a stability piece, a stable option. And if you want to sell me on having just a stable option, someone that is going to go out there and give you baseline production, going to give you plus defense with the bat. He's been, below average for his career against lefties, but that's all right to expect against a non-superstar left-handed hitter. And he's been good in his career against right-handed pitching. So if I'm selling myself on the option of having a stable piece in the outfield, that's something I'm good with. That's definitely something I'm good with. And I can be sold on the fact that I'm not a big fan of giving up prospect capital, large, like big time prospect capital for contact hitters. But Steven Kwan's been a plus hitter against righties in his career, 120 WRC plus for his career against righties. So they really struggled with Conforto last year. Now that it came out that Michael Conforto's little blip before the deadline really had them pivoting away from acquiring a piece. And this is something that I believe to be true as well. Bob Nightingale tweeted that out, that the Dodgers' interest with Steven Kwan, they're going to reopen those trade talks. I also agree with that. I believe that to be true. Someone said earlier about, where there's smoke, there's fire. I agree. And I think this is the route that they go, the trade route or the 1-year deal route. But I think it's going to be, whether it's Steven Kwan or Jarren Duran, I see it as they want someone who's produced in Major League Baseball for several years now, whether it's Jarren Duran, Steven Kwan. But with Steven Kwan, you're going to get, a left field glove that's been Gold Glove material for years now. Steven Kwan has been exceptional as a left fielder. Took a little bit of a step back. His arm is the thing that is really, carries him. 22 defensive runs saved. We're talking about a guy who the writers know him for that. Fans know him for that. Not a big power guy. So I've taken a complete 180 on the view of it. It's basically that I want the stability that they're searching for too. And I think that's the case. It's more about that than having to continuously say at the deadline, we need to go search for an outfield bat. We need to search in the offseason for something. And Steven Kwan, still with 2 more years of arbitration here, before he's a free agent, that's the way to go as well. Jarren Duran, him and the Red Sox just agreed to, avoid arbitration this year, but he's 2 more years because he's a Super 2 player. So Jarren Duran has 3 years of team control and Steven Kwan is 2. Drew says Kwan will be a disaster. Can't be anything worse than Michael Conforto, brother. I'll tell you. And the Dodgers have prospects where they either utilize them or they let them just collapse on themselves. It's one of those moments. It's one of those moments. Is there anybody else out there they'd rather deal them for? I know you just don't do it, but we've had the conversation for years now about some of these prospects aging out, whether it's to be consistent starters or whether it's aging out of their trade intrigue. And that happened. Michael Busch didn't have a spot. They didn't trust him out in left field. They didn't have a spot for him at the corners. Muncy, Freddie Freeman. And now he's crushing it in Chicago. So if they don't intend to use Dalton Rushing in left field, you got to move him. You got to move him. Will Smith is everything as good as it gets. Contract, postseason pedigree. He's legit. So he has no spot in LA behind the plate, unfortunately, because I'm a big Dalton Rushing guy. I think with enough ABs, he'll be a good quality MLB bat. But if they're not going to use him in left field or find a spot on the field for him, you have to move him. You have to move him. And if it's for Steven Kwan, they want a stable option out there because the outfield defense killed last year. So take away from this. Sell yourself on the idea that the stable option and someone that is a consistent big leaguer is where the Dodgers are going. And that's why I believe, and I've confirmed that with myself and people I've spoken to, that they're searching for the stable option. So Steven Kwan is the route that I believe they'll go. Whether it's him, Jarren Duran, I think it'll be the trade route. And if those are just the prices way too high, then you go with the 1 year and you run that back that way. Ryan Ward stuff. I know the boys talked about that last night. Alex Call makes an intriguing thing. Ryan Ward on the 40-man now. It's intriguing. I get that. But those are fallback options. But the 2 places that I would have the Dodgers start with, re-engage with the Guardians about Steven Kwan, see what it'll take to get him. Dalton Rushing, headliner. And then move down. Bruce Kuntz had a terrific write-up that he tweeted out. Please go check him out. He's a stud. Does terrific work there. Put up his list on players in the org and the tier list as far as trade value and stuff like that. It would cost, but the Dodgers are searching for a stable big leaguer. So that's the way that I go here. Let's look at this. What are you guys saying about this conversation here? So appreciate you. David, he says, Duran has had bad splits against lefties. Yeah, but they already speaking about platooning Call and Ward, so it could do the exact same thing. I mean, I don't think that they would acquire Duran just to strict platoon him. It would be Duran's a very athletic player, incredibly aggressive base runner. I think his glove will play so much better outside of Boston. Hits for pop, elite speed, base running aggressiveness is sexy. I'm all about that. Good glove. I think he'd play well. So the way that it looks for me is that if Steven Kwan's the guy that they go with, it's the defensive upside. You know what you're getting against righties, and you feel good about that. It has everything to come down to prospect cost. And they're at a point now where they have young starting pitching coming back from injury. You've got a number one prospect seemingly in Dalton Rushing here that you have to figure out. You've got to figure out what you're doing with him. So a lot to be made of the Steven Kwan stuff. I believe that to be where the Dodgers stick at. They're going to work that trade stuff because they almost acquired him at the deadline. But I feel like they're going to re-engage there. And ultimately, I believe they'll get a deal done. I think they'll get a deal done there. That's kind of where I'm sticking at it. And it's my number one option. I had that thing tweeted up there. It's going to be my number one option. I think they'll go that route. Guardians have some intrigue, have to have some intrigue in what the Dodgers have. I think they go that route. All right, I'm going to welcome him. Good buddy of mine. He made it. Let's bring him in. Anthony Witrato. What's up, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. Got a little window of time here in my afternoon. So yeah, let's pop on and yap it up.
Yeah. So right now I'm in the middle of a great conversation. Again, if you're listening on, after the fact there, where you collect all your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. I've got Anthony Witrato on here. We're, directly in the middle of our Steven Kwan discussion. And Anthony, how my revelation is more about the hunt for a stable outfield piece and the Dodgers having kind of a big decision with Dalton Rushing here and him being a very intriguing piece and what the Dodgers need to do there and what Steven Kwan can provide with 2 more years of team control. That's kind of put him at the number one slot for me and ultimately the way that I think they'll go. I know you guys talked about it last night, but I just want to, get your thoughts here.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? What's up, chat? I see what you're saying there. And, I think that's a realistic discussion to have. In terms of how Rushing fits into things like that, I think he still has more value than a Steven Kwan. And don't know if you guys were talking about including him in a package like that or not, but just to throw that out there. And I say that to bleed into the thing I did see today that made my eyes bug out and then think Dalton Rushing could definitely be in this package is that the Twins, Byron Buxton could be open to trading waiving his no trade clause for certain contenders.
Yeah.
That is a piece you empty the clip for, I think.
I saw that. I did see that. I did see that buzz. I did see that chatter. I know he has I think 3 years and $54 million left is what I saw. So it's,
super reasonable.
Super reasonable. I haven't looked into how much Buxton has played recently, but definitely comes with the air of concern with the health there. Let's talk Buxton, man. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. And I think for, a good number of years now, enough that it's a thing that has been, kind of his bugaboo is that, how many plate appearances is he actually giving you? And this past season, he gave the Twins 542. So basically he played the full season, 126 games. And if that's the guy you're getting, that's the guy I'm saying you emptied the clip for. Rushing's involved in that. I think there are still a couple of guys you don't want to, part with, but for the most part, I think for a guy like that, a game changer like that, everyone can be on the table. Now, for some context, that was the last season. This past season was the first time that he gave the team anything more than looks like 380 or so plate appearances, right? And so he's only cracked 100 games played one other time since 2017. So
yep.
Totally a legitimate concern, but I think that if last season's indicator that he is healthy and that he can now stay healthy, that is the guy you target, I think. And we've talked about him before as a pipe dream kind of guy, he's never leaving Minnesota. He's already told us that, but man, if you could get your hands on that guy, that's a guy who's not only a game changer defensively in your outfield, which of course is an area of need for the Dodgers, but he's a game changer in the lineup with his bat. He slashed this last season 264, 327, 551, 136 OPS plus. I'm looking at a Baseball Reference here, obviously, so I was not sure what his weighted runs created is.
He's a beast, man.
That is elite caliber production on both ends of the field there, both sides of the ball. So he would be my number one target, I think, considering that news that came out today. But if you're looking to go, less prospect capital, for example, then I think a guy like Kwan makes sense. I also think a guy like Harrison Bader, who would just be money, makes sense also if you're just doing stopgap type of work. Yeah,
I think that, like, of course, Bader is, would be right at the top. Right at the top. If they want to go the route of they can acquire the contract and it's a contract, they'll be like, okay, sounds good. 3 years, about 54. If the Twins don't want to pick up any of the cash and the Dodgers do it, you could probably make something happen. But he is, a big piece. He's a big piece. I really am concerned with the injury history there, and only in the 1 year that he had above 100, he played 102 games. That was just 2024, 102. This year, you said about 126. So it's the health. It's the health for me that has it was the unavailability where every single year you're like, if he's healthy, he's going to be great, and when he's healthy, he is as good as it gets. And then he gets hurt, and then he's out for extended periods of time because he's so dynamic. That might just be his game. He has one way to play, and that's balls to the wall, and it's stellar performance, but it catches up with him. And last year it lined up, and he was a very, integral piece to, the success that they had, the little success that the Twins had.
Maybe it's not a coincidence that he came off of this year to finally announce, like, hey, I would be open to a trade now.
And that's it. This is what I could do.
His volume was a little bit tanked because of the injury stuff. But it could mean also like that his price is, a little down. So maybe it's one key prospect that the Dodgers have. And you don't have to add a second one or a third one for a guy who has that kind of injury history. Plus here, the prospect capital here would be the big thing, but the 3 years, $50+ million to say, like, if he didn't work out, whether it be health-wise or whatever, that's not a huge hit to take for this organization. Obviously, if that was their plan, like it would be similar. If it failed, it would be similar to Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates, where that blew up on them, and then their bullpen went into it was destruction mode, and they had to figure out ways to piece things together. If you spent your offseason going after Buxton, got him, and he played 20 games for you, you would be in a bad situation with your outfield for sure. But this front office has shown, at least on the pitching side, like the risk reward model for them skews heavily to the reward side.
Yeah, and my only pushback there is that when you're talking about starting pitching and relievers and stuff like that, they've just shown that they're going to draft pitching, they're going to retain pitching, they're going to bring high-end stuff, and if it lines up, it lines up. And that's last year. We got, this past season, they saw the marriage of what happens when the elite starters are healthy at the right time, and now they've got these young guys doing that. I think you can always find more pitching, but finding quality big league bats that are on the field a bunch is what makes or breaks you. And that's why you saw, like, when George Springer went out at the, right in the heart of the World Series, that changed the entire complexion. I know it didn't, it's because it pushed to 7 games, but it mattered. It mattered. And having stars on the field and the consistent performers on there, matters. So Buxton is an elite player. And if they got him, I'd be like, if he can replicate even 110 games, that's a plus. Because he's so dynamic and fills a need in center field and fills a big time bat, and they need an outfielder in this contract through there, 3 more years, including this one. It lines up again with the same timeline that I want for the, how they go with this outfield stuff, which is why I'm looking at Kwan, Duran, and, Byron Buxton, if he's truly on the table there, if it's not just chatter with the Guardians saying, let's see what we get. Let's see what we can get here. Buxton would be right there at the list. He would be right there at the list. I just think that they're searching for stability. And that's something that I truly believe that they want. They want somebody to be out there for 120 games, 130 games without even having to think about it. Someone they can pencil in and feel good about. That's my only pause with
No,
Byron
and it's
Buxton.
totally fair. I mean, that is going to be the hang up for everybody with Buxton. That's the obvious, it's not even an elephant in the room. Like, everybody knows it's hanging right there in the middle, and everyone can see it and has to talk about it. The stuff with like Duran, like I don't mind that kind of move, but then you also have to pair him with somebody, because he's not, we talk about 120 games, and like for a guy like Buxton, that would be the floor that you would want to see a guy like him play. But for Duran, he's going to be a platoon guy. He doesn't hit lefties well. And so you would have to say, okay, well, Alex Call is also going to be a big part of this too.
He'll be there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that could actually be a good spot in your order, right? They could turn that into a productive spot in the order, a combination of, let's just say, for example, Call and Duran. That's not a bad one player. You know what I mean? So there is that route too. I think it's just how big do the Dodgers want to swing?
Yeah, and somebody says in the years 300 says Scott doesn't want Buxton. He's a Kwan guy. Look, I'm reading the tea leaves. I'm looking at the buzz that went on with the Dodgers and the Guardians at the deadline, that they almost came to a deal. It was just these last little bits that they have to piece up here. And Bob Nightingale putting that right back out there. The Dodgers expected to re-engage in these talks, and I think that's going to be the case. I think that there's things that Steven Kwan does as far as stellar outfield glove. They want someone in the outfield who can go and get it, who's done it for years. He's got a stable floor offensively. I wish he had more power in there. And Mike, I see you in there, and I got it. I'm with you, man. That's where the Duran thing, works out for me. But it's with Steven Kwan. I think that when there's enough smoke with this at two spots, Anthony, where it's at a deadline, and then, this offseason immediately, I think that's ultimately where they're going to check in with first. If not, then they'll go to the next option, and then Duran, and then you'll do that. Real quick while I got you, what's your thoughts on the Kyle Tucker stuff? Where do you think they go with that?
Very similar to how they approached Bryce Harper, is my opinion.
Yeah, me too. That's what I said.
Yeah. I think it's the same game plan. If the market, look, they'll come in early, because it's not that the Dodgers so much want to talk to Tucker. It's that Tucker wants to talk to the Dodgers. Whether he wants to play for them or not, they want to have that meeting because they want to be able to say the Dodgers are interested. Yep. What that level of interest is, that can be left for everyone to guess on. But I think the Dodgers don't need Kyle Tucker, not for what the cost is going to, not for what he comes with. Can he fill the position that they need filling? Absolutely. But if he's looking strictly at 8 to 10 to 12-year deals, then that's a no, I think, for this organization. They've been very, very choosy about who they've given those long-term contracts out to, for good reason too. And then when they find those guys, they are very aggressive. I just don't think Tucker is that guy. I think they treat him like Bryce Harper, where they say, hey, here's our deal. Maybe it's 3 years plus an option with the high AAV.
Yep. And
they say, if your market kind of starts to fall through, we're here with that. You can talk to us again. Yep. But I don't think they go much beyond that. I just don't see it. I
agree. That's where I'm at with it. Kyle Tucker needs the Dodgers. He needs the Dodgers. He needs someone to pay up and get, go toward that. The 27 years old, $400 million. He's approached that AAV, someone who's going to take it and then wants to fill that spot. It's just not something I think the Dodgers do. They spend at a very patient manner. They don't get too crazy. Tanner Scott was the only one into the offseason where you're like, he's a piece where it's a luxury spot. That's where it's at. Who's saying this right here? Bob Nightingale also said Tatis will be traded. Look, all right, I'm going to break this down for, two things here. The Padres are, yes, the Padres are in trouble financially. That is not a secret. Generally, people are saying that. It won't surprise me if one of their big contracts, they try to move someone to take on, one of the big contracts there. But also, this Kwan stuff has been reported for a bit now, months. This was at the deadline. The Dodgers talked well into the night, up toward the deadline about this. So it's a legitimate thing. The Steven Kwan stuff is not just rumors.
I would be very curious though who's Bob's, not that Bob is wrong, but who's the source on that? What side of the aisle is that coming from? Because if it's from the Dodger side, then I think it's real. If it's from the the Guardian side, then it might be positioning.
Yeah. And I know for a fact that the Guardians value Steven Kwan as an all-star, that, he was an all-star. They value him how they feel. So it remains to be seen what that value is, if they've come down at that at all. You got 2 years left to control here. So we'll see. We'll see. And that's,
he didn't do himself any favors with how he performed.
No, he didn't. He had a little step back here, back in 2025 for sure. But anything else on that? Let me see here. 300 says this: if they can acquire Buxton, I can see them move Teo. It's just, I think they would try to make it work for 1 year at least. That'd be a quick turn.
Yeah. I think that if they were able to get a guy like Buxton, then I think they keep Paz and Teo in the corners. I don't think that they move off those guys so much unless like someone comes with a crazy deal for Teoscar Hernandez, which I don't see happening. I think they ride with that trio. But yeah, I don't think they're totally out on Teoscar.
Yeah. Freedom says this: I wonder if Belly Bomb would be willing to take a short contract. He's got Dodger blue still in his blood. He can get his triple crown. I mean, he was non-tendered for one. I know he loves the guys that play for the Dodgers and that were with the org. So I don't know how much he has blue still in his blood. He's got, he loves the players that he was with and some of the guys that are still here. But Freedom, Bellinger will not be taking a short-term contract to join the Dodgers. I don't think he has FOMO. It's a fun thing to think about, but this is Cody Bellinger's spot to get that big contract. It is. It's his spot, and I hope we take advantage of it because he deserves it, because he's been terrific with Chicago, New York. He's played his ass off, so I'm super happy for him, and I hope he gets a ton of money. I don't see the Dodgers doing that there. Let me see here.
And this is his last opportunity, so there are no more short contracts for him.
This is it. Mike Rio wants to know what I think about Wiley Abreu. Good player. I just think that the odd man out in Boston, Rafael, is a cornerstone for them too. So, and then Roman Anthony, they've got outfielders in Boston. I just think Jaron Duran, which is much, the chatter around him being the odd man out. I think this is the offseason where it finally comes to fruition that they find a dance partner and they move him. Still with a few years of control. They've had success with prospects. I think they try to do that again.
His value is not ever going to be higher too for Boston.
For sure, man. And with 3 years of control left, like Super 2 guy, like this is a spot for them to cash in if they want to move him to get some value back in a trade here. So that's where I think they'll go. I'm on record. I've said this, like Kwan's the one that I think that they'll pursue first. And then if that doesn't work out, then they'll pivot to Jaron Duran, who, yes, pretty strict platoon stuff there, but incredibly dynamic player. It stays in that window. Versus righties, he's just been a good player. Exceptional speed. I think his glove would play well outside of Boston. 29 years old, so I'm pretty on record as either of those. And then Buxton, if it makes it happen, I'm in. Here we go. This is a conversation I was happy that I would get you on here. That's why I put this one second. Devin Williams. So again, we can date this back to prior to the 2024 season. So post 2023, Brewers have the collapse here. It was before the 2024 season, right? No, just last year. He was with the Yankees, excuse me.
Yeah.
Just last year got traded. So after the 2024 season, the Brewers move him to the Yankees in a deal that the Brewers made out well. They chose the right trade partner in that. They got Caleb Durbin and Nestor Cortez. So Caleb Durbin was the true prize of that. He just finished third in Rookie of the Year in the National League with the Brewers. So they definitely made out with the better piece, because Gavin Lux, he had a fine season, but Caleb Durbin, I'm sure they value more. So, but the Dodgers were linked to the Brewers for Devin Williams there. And Devin Williams even said himself, I thought I was going to LA. That's what he said. He goes, that's what they were telling me. My agent was telling me. He thought I was going to LA. So now we're at a spot where has a kind of an odd year with the Yankees. His last month and a half, 2 months there is much better than the rest of the season. We saw some signs of Devin Williams of old here. This feels like a spot that if the Dodgers can get him on a 1 year, you want to pay him like a closer, like the top end arm that he can. And I would expect him to be with some good, tinkering there. This is a good bet for the Dodgers if they pursue this.
Yeah, I would not be opposed to this at all. And I think people have to look deeper than the ERA because it wasn't good, but all the underlying stuff was still elite. And also, I think if you even look at the ERA, He gave up like 30 plus runs, and I want to say almost half of those maybe came in like a handful of appearances. Like he had some blow up appearances. And so that really skews the numbers. For anyone thinking that who looks at the ERA and goes, oh, well, he's going to be a bargain guy now because people are going to stay off of him. He's going to get the 4 years, 60 to 80 million type of deal. I think that's at least what he's going to look for. And I think some teams were going to play in that market. I don't see the Dodgers going that high. Maybe I think not after the Tanner Scott debacle. And that's not to say Tanner Scott is totally washed. Like,
no, I hear you. You're on. Yeah, you got it.
He can come back and be elite again. So I think that if that's the cost for Williams, though, I do think the Dodgers start to look at like, oh, well, what does Pete Fairbanks cost then? And they start to do that cost analysis against each other, against those guys against each other. D is included probably. Like they're going to do their due diligence on all of these guys. But it's not my money. And if news broke that they signed Devin Williams, I'm going to celebrate because he's still really good.
I see this as I don't think there was enough. Like if a team out there have been some clear indicators for arms in the past. Like Zach Wheeler's the one that was almost the clearest indicator ever when he was with the New York Mets. This is a starter reliever scenario, so little different stuff there, but clear indicators of success with just a little bit of tinkering. And you can say the second you start to fix their usage and fix one thing, they're going to click right into this elite form. That one was clear. With Devin Williams, there were positive signs at the back end, so it's not as clear. I read some stuff there, some terrific things from Fangraphs and articles in The Athletic. Unfortunately, I'm from escaping the author's name, so I just toss that out there to give them the credit, so I appreciate it. Devin Williams has had some issues with arm slot, and I looked that up and confirmed that with Savant. His arm slots continue to drop, so he had some issues, I would say, with his deception. So, big airbender changeup there, four-seam fastball. When he's pitching confident on the mound, Anthony, this is a guy that I think that the Dodgers, I saw it, somebody just say it in chat, that you can get him on maybe a 1-and-1. You can go with a player, a 1 year, maybe with a player option. If it's a 1 year and you pay him big time to reset that market, because I don't know if there's a team out there right now that would give Devin Williams. I know MLB trade rumors, put up 4 years, $68 million. And I don't know if a team out there would give him that. That's a big if they can figure him out to do that. And do they want to commit that off the bat with as down of a year, like off of a year as he had with the Yankees? I think the Dodgers could give him 1 year, maybe two, and just ride it.
Yeah. I mean, if you look though, he only had a bad year in terms of ERA. The other stuff was pretty good. And I think that's obviously what his selling point is.
FIP especially. Yes. Big indicator that he can turn around with his FIP. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and ERA is the reason those other pitching metrics exist is because ERA is not a super great indicator of how well a guy pitched. Right. And so, and again, half of those runs he allowed this season came off of like 5 or 6 outings this season. And he made 30 plus outings, I think. So, I do think he's going to get a big one. I think he's going to get a big deal. If that means the Dodgers are out, then I hope it turns into a 1 or 2 year deal. And maybe you're right in that some of these teams are shy of him because of the 4 ERA, 4.5 ERA or whatever it was. Because that's a guy I would want in this bullpen. So yeah, look, I think that it's very possible. Look, a reliever market is always fickle. And if the first guy signs and it's below market value, then all bets are off for everyone's projections, right? Like that's how the relief market works. Or if the first guy gets overpaid, then everybody's in a world of hell in terms of what they're going to have to pay for even like just decent relievers in the free agent market. That's why
the high end guy needs to get the money, and then it just trickles down. It can't be a mid-level guy gets signs for a big deal. That's the worry here. So
yeah, totally. We've seen that happen. Like you're at watching winter meetings coverage, and you're like,
football, it happens a lot, man.
How much?
Football, it happens all the time. You're like, this guy got what the hell guaranteed money? It's just you got some great agents out there. Hope they're getting the cut. So if that does happen, there are options. And I see people in chat talking about Pete Fairbanks. That sounds like a no-brainer. go out there. I know there's been some concerns with his fastball and stuff like that. I've mentioned, I talked about on Dodgers territory yesterday about Ryan Helsley. He's someone that the stuff has always been elite, and even at his worst moments, his stuff is maintained, being at an elite level. His issues were pitch tipping. I think so as well. Sequencing issues, big time. The issues with tipping have been, pretty vocal. He spoke to the media about that. Mets brass were pretty vocal about that, and he just did not have a fun tenure there. So if people are looking for a one-year guy, Ryan Helsley's an option there. But Fairbanks has had his issues too. So it's just, if they get to that point, Anthony, I want to stick with a very, safe options in the bullpen don't exist. That just does not happen like that. You've got to go with the dart throws.
We saw firsthand this season that is not that. Whenever people talk, we say it all the time that bullpens are fickle, relievers are fickle. We saw prime example number one this season with Tanner Scott, because when they signed him, no one thought that was a terrible deal. They thought it was a big money deal, but he was expected to get a big money deal. Why? Because he had been elite before that. And then, baseball hated him apparently this season. Who knows? And we'll see if he can find it again. But all of the guys that we're talking about right now are going to come with huge risk. But it just depends on what the going rate is for that guy this particular winter. Because like you said, one guy sets the market, and if it's over expectations, then, everybody beware, because prices are going to go up. And if it's below market value, well, then maybe you can go out and get a guy like Devin Williams for 2 years plus one at, 40 million, 30 million, something like that. We'll see. But
hearing those numbers, I don't want to hear it. I want a 1 year and then let him reset the market and then go from there. That's the hope I'm having with Devin Williams. I still think they could make that happen. Go have an entire season of a clean slate for yourself, Devin. There was reported mutual interest between it. So however they draw it up, if it's a 1-1 to reset and an opt out so he can go get his money, that's a route that I would love. I would pick him up from the airport. I would be enjoying that. I would love a closer. I would love someone at the back end, because with all the options that are coming back, with Evan Phillips on his way back, Bruzdar hopefully, is healthy, and you get these guys out in the bullpen. Dave Roberts, his job's a lot easier, and Roki Sasaki, seemingly stretching back out, because he does want to start. So that's something that people have to keep in mind there. Everybody will be clamoring for years about, just put Roki back in the bullpen if things don't work out, but he wants to be a starter, and the Dodgers, confirmed are going to do right by him. He took that role because that was the way he could contribute to a postseason roster. So all the credit to him, but we have to allow him to, explore being a starter like he signed with the Dodgers to be. So that's going to be the option they go with there. So
they're going to give him every opportunity to
succeed. Must, man, has to 100%. So they definitely should. So as far as the closer, they're going to explore that. They will end the off season with someone they feel comfortable with taking the ball at the very end of the game or in the highest leverage of scenarios there, whether it's Devin Williams, if Helsley ends up being the guy, Edwin Diaz. I think that if the Mets don't re-sign Edwin Diaz, they'll be in a world of pain. There is nobody in that bullpen. That bullpen stinks. So I think that Cohen's going to toss a bunch of money back out to him. He wants another contract. Edwin Diaz does, like he signed there. His original 5-year, like $102 million deal. They want that. He wants that again. So I don't expect the Dodgers to touch anywhere close to that. But Devin Williams is a good bet for me. Robert Suarez is another one that's out there. I don't expect them to go that route. Older arm, big time fastball. There's indicators that he can have some regression there, and not someone I feel comfortable with the Dodgers handing a multi-year contract to. Is basically the entire thing of my conversation today. Who do I feel comfortable handing the money to? Who do I feel comfortable the Dodgers sending the prospects to, and following what they have done in years past, and because at this point we understand their model of success and what they kind of go with, and I think that they have indicators of success, and I think they feel comfortable with the few guys that have already been rumored, and I think they're telling us what they're doing.
Yeah, I think so. And look, this front office, like I said, when they target someone, they will get aggressive. Obviously, they liked Kwan for a while, so they're going to go back after him. They've liked Devin Williams for a while, so they're going to be engaged in those talks. Who knows about Byron Buxton, because he's basically been off limits until this thing
now.
came out. Yeah. But so we'll see. But it's no surprise because they identify guys based on a lot of things, and part of it is how they fit into the culture. And not everybody fits into what the Dodgers have built, and they're very careful about who they add into that, right? And we all know that now at this point. And so if they identify a guy like Steven Kwan, and they go, you know what, that guy's going to be good for us on the field, he's going to be good for us in the clubhouse, that is a guy we want, and no one else comes in to bump him off of that pedestal that they have him on, then they're going to go after him again and again. You know what I mean? Until they can get him or until they just move on. And so, yeah, I'm with you. It's not surprising because this is an organization that's very deliberate about who they go and target. And when they set their sights on that person, they're going to make aggressive moves to go and get that person.
Yeah. Once they become available, they're like, oh, it's our turn. We've been waiting for this. They're sitting on there. They're waiting in the shadows, just waiting for it. It's like Freddie Freeman fell right into their laps. They're like, oh, a perennial all-star, future Hall of Famer just fall into our lap. Why not? Mookie Betts becomes available. Why not? They have a knack for striking when the moment is there. And I just expect them to do it again. And if this Buxton thing, the Buxton news, and if that's something that has legs, they explore all things. They make a call. But with the Steven Kwan stuff, now it's at an offseason here where you're not paying deadline price. You're paying 2-year price, arbitration. You've got the prospects you feel you can move around. You've got a timeline that makes sense for both Duran and Steven Kwan. They could go a number of routes and stuff. Anthony, I feel comfortable with a few. And so it's like the hit rate on those things, I won't be, thrown completely off if they don't acquire one of those guys. And that's a very unique thing. Not many teams can say that.
No, totally. I'm with you. And I would be fine with any of those guys. And given their roles, the Dodgers understand what they're going to be. I would not want to put rushing as the centerpiece of a deal for Kwan or Duran, though. I don't want to give up a potential all-star caliber offensive player for a platoon guy, especially one who's got 5 more years of control. So that one, I would save rushing as like a chip for a big blockbuster kind of deal. And Kwan and Duran, for me, aren't those blockbuster kind of deals. That's not to say I wouldn't take them, and it's not to say I would not want to trade rushing if the right player was on the board. But in a 1-for-1 in those packages, I think you can get a little more for rushing maybe.
Gotcha. Yeah, we've seen it in the past. So we'll see. I'm worried as always about prospects aging out. And I really, above everything, I would love Dalton Rushing to start in left field because I think with extended time, he could hit in this league. But if they don't do that, which we haven't seen them trust anything about it, internal stuff, I hear Blake Williams talk about all the time. He was terrible in left field. They weren't going to do it. I think that they're going to, they're going to move off him unless they recommit to him. I just think they have to find a place for Dalton Rushing. It's just one more year in the league and one more year of control. And now he's at highest value still. It's going to be until it becomes like 2 years. So you have to give him a run.
He still has high value. Yeah. Now
he's still an unknown. And that's the best thing. Before teams know who these guys are, you have to either play them with their own org or trade them away. So with the team still not knowing. And
this is a thing too, the value is still high, but I do think teams will now start to play a harder ball when it comes to including him and what those teams may give up for rushing. Because, and I said this early in the season, really early in the season, before he had come up, I had this conversation with Jeff, and Jeff told me I was full of it. And but my point was that I have seen these things play out where a prospect is still in the minors or not a regular part of your major league roster or your major league lineup or rotation. And that age number starts to tick up, right? 25, 26, or whatever the case may be. And teams, when in negotiations for trades, not that they don't value that guy that you have, but they'll say, well, you haven't brought that guy up yet. There must be some red flags.
Why isn't he up yet?
Exactly.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Yeah.
You won't find a
And
spot
I'm
for
sure
him.
I'm sure the Dodgers are going to hear some of that if they shop rushing ever.
Dodgers are just it's a unique spot because you have the best designated hitter in the history of the game, almost, to an extent with Shohei Ohtani here, and the most dynamic player there. Freddie Freeman, you're not moving him off. Max Muncy, it's just they just don't have the spots. This has been the issue with the issue, as they've just been exceptional. But I'm saying for young players in the Dodgers org, you've seen them, and I see people in chat with the Dodgers have a gluttony of prospects. We've had this conversation a number of times with Diego Cartaya. He was one that he was number one prospect in the org. They didn't have a spot for him. Couldn't find a dance partner that made sense. So sometimes you're going to get bit. Sometimes you're going to trade a Michael Busch. He's going to succeed elsewhere. Yeah. But we all knew that with some proper time, some of these guys can work out. And that's the worry with me. If they can't find a spot for Dalton Rushing in left field, where does he play? And that's where I'm like, I don't want to see him sit behind Will Smith and never play and never have the time to blossom into a player. It's just, that's the worry. It's another year in the league as a backup with a top prospect. And how are you going to do that to a top prospect? You have to find a way for him to have regular time. Yeah. I just don't think it's with the Dodgers. I really don't, unless he's in left field.
Yeah. I'm with you. I would not mind seeing him just run out there and let's watch the experiment fail if it's going to fail. Like I would be okay with that, because if the bat plays, then they stuck Ryan Braun in left field in Milwaukee when I was there, and it was because he was an absolute butcher at third base.
Yeah.
Like, other teams were, it's like the NBA when you call for a pick and roll so you can get the switch onto the defender you want.
Yeah.
Baseball players were trying to hit the ball to third base against the Brewers when Ryan Braun was playing there.
That's how it goes.
And to the folks who are worried, like, or not worried, but who are saying like the Dodgers have a glutton of prospects that are valuable, like they can move rushing for cheap or whatever, Well, part of that too is that means that they can stay on a guy longer as he gets older and say, you know what, we're not going to trade this guy right now, because if we want to make trades for other dudes, we got other prospects in the minors that are younger that we can move still at people that are very highly regarded. We think this guy's got something. We're going to stick with him longer, as opposed to like, you're talking about aging out. And that's a really good point for most other organizations. But the Dodgers do have the luxury of having that load of prospects that other teams would love to have. And so that's the part where they can afford to ride out a guy like Dalton Rushing or ride out a guy like Gavin Lux for a while until they go, you know what, now we don't have a place for you anymore. So we'll see how this goes, but it works the same way as the money, right? Like it's not always just the money that you spend. It's the ability to absorb a mistake like Tanner Scott and still win a damn World Series.
Yeah, agreed. Freedom says this real fast. Anthony, anytime if you got to head out here, you're good to go, man. I appreciate you. He said, Freedom says, you guys are going to laugh. Who the hell is Steven Kwan? I only watch Dodger Blue. I'm an old fart. Scott still can't believe we beat the Jays.
I love
Freedom,
it.
You're good, man. Yeah, he's a left fielder for the Guardians. He's a terrific, defensive outfielder there. Bat to ball skills, no pop in the bat, not a lot. He just, he can handle right-handed pitching to a certain, to a degree, like 120 WRC plus for the career. So above average, I'll just tell you, Freedom, against right-handed pitching. Against lefties, he's just a little bit below league average. I think it's like 93 WRC plus 95. So he can handle his own versus lefties, but there's not pop in the bat. But he's a stable option with 2 more years under team control. So that's the appeal for Steven Kwan there, to also get
provide a really good floor.
Yes, exactly. You provide a stable floor. The thing I'm going to keep putting out is stability. Those right there is what the Dodgers want. And somebody said, like with Dalton Rushing, if he, play him in left field and it doesn't work out, who do you have? That's the thing. And then he's exposed as a, prospect here in the league that can't get his feet down. Their Dodgers won't give him that entire season like they gave Michael Conforto, because he's not making $18 million. So they're not going to do that with Dalton Rushing. If it doesn't work out, they'll pivot pretty quick there because they have Alex Call. It's just they're searching for a stable option. That's why I think they're going to do it. Yeah, Mike Carrillo says Ryan Ward, and I know there's been some stuff about that. I think that's like super fallback option if one of these trades doesn't work out. Kyle Tucker, no low years deal, no 1 year guy that they like in the outfield there. And then Ryan Ward, why the hell not? But if you're going to give Ryan Ward a shot and not Dalton Rushing, where does Dalton Rushing fit into it? That's my thing with this. Where does he fit into all this? Yeah.
When we saw that comment from Gomes, I think it was today or yesterday, about that Ryan Ward is a serious consideration for them in left field. My thought went there too with rushing, was like, well, then maybe we could just see him there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're not going to care about defense that much, and a guy who you have clearly thought, like, you have question marks about him succeeding at the big league level,
another AAA merchant and stuff like that. Like, if that's what it is. Like, why wouldn't it just be rushing?
Then how do we get Rushing's bat into the lineup every day? Because you clearly think higher of Rushing's offensive ability than Ryan Ward's.
That's what I'm saying. So it's just, there's so many things we can break down and where Rushing fits or doesn't fit. And ultimately, if people are considering a Ryan Ward, Alex Call scenario, where the hell's Rushing? Why isn't he in the conversation here with a bat that you could project? So it's something we could keep breaking down, and why that they're going to exhaust all those efforts. And why would Ryan Ward be the move over maybe a Dalton Rushing platoon there? Because if you see him as an everyday guy, I don't like your number one prospect being a pure platoon guy right off the rip. So that's where I'm currently at, man. That's kind of the impasse I'm at with Dalton Rushing and the fallback options. Cole says we celebrated back-to-back with teams that did hit on all cylinders. Who is the next? Probably Will Klein or Brent Honeywell. Expect strange things and trust the process. I mean, those type of heroes come out of nowhere. They acquired Will Klein from Seattle in the middle of the year. Yeah. Those type of heroes come out of nowhere. Tommy Edman acquired out of nowhere. Teoscar Hernandez signed on a 1-year deal. Guys that have, playing for everything. JF says this: when do you guys think we'll start seeing signings? I would say a couple weeks. I'd say probably 2 weeks. We'll see things trickle through, after Thanksgiving. And then there's kind of a dead period after winter meetings and stuff like that. Things might click at winter meetings, but usually it's right around then, right, Ant?
You'll see guys start to sign in the 48 hours, 72 hours before the meetings. And then if it's a good year, you'll see a flurry during the meetings. We'll see, though, because, like, let's say for position players, if they're waiting for Kyle Tucker to set the market and guys are afraid to sign before Kyle Tucker, you might see some familiar names that the casual fan knows, like, fall into February. And, it's sort of the nature of the beast when players set their own market value, when there's no salary cap and there's no, like in the NBA, you see guys sign the minute that the clock hits midnight and free agency starts, because
already locked in. There's
no negotiating those numbers. Right. Yeah. So, the baseball stuff can be a little bit slower, but I would say you see some big stuff happen right around the winter meetings time.
Yeah, I agree. Back to back. Thank you for this one, man. He says, what type of package would you give up for Skubal? I don't know. That's a humongous package, knowing you're going to have to pay him as well. I do not know. So back to back, I can't even give you an educated guess on that, because it's essentially like trading for the number one pitcher, essentially top 2 in Major League Baseball. That's a value that is just astronomical. You'd be giving multiple big league pieces, multiple top prospects there. You'd have to start with DePaula, Emmett Sheehan. You'd be dipping into big time. Yeah, probably give away 3 of your top 5 and go from there with a big league arm. That's how it goes.
I would think Sheehan, River Ryan are probably involved in that, either Hope or DePaula. I don't think they would have to put both of those guys in, but already that trio right there is a massive package for a return already. And there would have to be things added into it too.
It would be a lot. So I don't think, I always say this all the time: how the hell do Detroit Tigers offer that type of stuff to them? I don't know how they do that.
That's a clown organization, man. The fact that Detroit's in Michigan, but it's not like a tiny market. Like, you paid Javi Baez, bro. You can't pay Tarek Skubal.
Yeah, you paid Javi Baez. You can't have Tarek Skubal taking the ball every 5th day, just throwing, FU fastballs and being the most dominant arm out there to give, a big ticket.
This is where, you can really see like the Dodgers are not the problem. The Dodgers are not the ones ruining baseball. And the reason why your team can't compete is because your team does BS like this, where they say we got a 2-time Cy Young winner and we got this second baseman contract, shortstop contract on the books that gives us nothing, but we're not willing to pay our ace, a legitimate ace, maybe one of 5 in all of baseball. We're not going to pay that guy.
Yeah.
Right. Or the Pittsburgh Pirates, who haven't signed a free agent to longer than a 1-year contract.
Wasn't that what's his name? Harrison?
Like 2017 or 2018. But I'm supposed to believe the Dodgers are the problem, bro. You got this twisted, man.
Yeah.
They're not the problem. Talk to your team. Talk to the
team.
team.
Kayla, what's up? Good to see you. Yeah, Kayla, what's up? Good to see you. Scooter Brew says this. They say they're like $250 million apart. Yeah, because wasn't the initial offer like 5 years, $100 million, something like that.
That was something super insulting.
Something hang up and something you just like laugh. You like point up at the the box with all the the suits and just be like, "What are you doing?" Just wave your arms. Hi, like I'm down here. I'm ready to leave. Stuff like that. There we go. A couple more here, and we'll hop out of here. Cole says this: Rushing can get 1 day and left, 2 behind the dish, 1 at first, 1 at the H. Yeah, crazy. Not happening. This would give Rushing 5 days of consistent ABs, rest for some guys. Cole, on MLB The Show and stuff like that, out of the park baseball, stuff can work like that, but that's not feasible for big league guys. That doesn't work like that, and it's not something I see it. He's an everyday guy, hopefully, but in a spot where he can play on a consistent basis. It just has to happen.
Yeah,
That's
I do
issue.
think there is maybe something there between, like, if they decided that they were going to do it, X number of days a week in left field and X number of days behind the plate, because they still do want to get Will Smith off of his feet. And I still think that they prefer Rushing as the guy who's doing it. But we'll see how that plays out. But at some point, though, and it may not be this season, I understand that, but at some point they're going to have to get that guy consistent at bats.
Yeah. Hopefully it's in LA. Hopefully it's, in a spot. If it's in LA, it is. If not, I expect them to go the trade route. I expect Dalton Rushing to be playing somewhere else unless they find, consistent at bats. Yeah. Consistent at bats from there. All right, everybody. And then the last thing, Mike put this up. I saved it from earlier, but he knows I was going to star it if I saw it here. He says, I just want to give the ball to Kyle Hurt and let him ride. Biggest Kyle Hurt fan right here, man. Anthony, I'm a big Kyle Hurt guy. I think he's ready to go. So when Kyle Hurt's ready to take the ball in LA, I'm going to be standing up, clapping, just cheering. Everybody's going to be yelling at me to sit down. Everybody can shut up. Kyle Hurt's on the hill. Let's do this thing. Anthony, final thoughts, and I'm going to get us out of here.
Final thoughts are, I think it's the flames are getting stoked right now. I think you're going to start to see some real fire soon. And I am very curious where this Byron Buxton thing goes.
Yeah, we'll see. Stay tuned on that. The early chatter, everybody. I have changed my tune on the Steven Kwan thing. I'm going to tell you, it's either Steven Kwan, Jarren Duran. Dodgers are just searching for the stable option, someone they know can play a consistent outfield, which is why they're pursuing Steven Kwan, seemingly at such a high level. Devin Williams, I think, is going to be a guy that they pursue, hopefully on a 1-on-1. But we'll talk about that all in the coming days, coming weeks as more comes out here. But everybody, as always, my name is Scott Geirman. Thank you for tuning into DodgerHeads Unplugged. Anthony Witrato, as always, the man, one of the best contributors we've got that I've worked with in several years. So I appreciate the hell out of you, buddy. Chad, thank you as always for tuning into this Wednesday rant, this yap sesh. More chatter is going to come. Just stay tuned. Keep enjoying the World Series. And until we can't say it anymore, as always, go Dodgers.